So welcome to the first episode of our short documentary series.
We are really happy to share our experiences, since we always have been keen not only to travel countries but also learn from the people actually living there. When arriving here to the Grijmodo campsite, we were amazed by all the effort Julia and Joep spent to create a more resource-saving environment and all the love they put into each detail of their property.
But every place has its challenges, and the main issue here is the lack of water during dry season. Luckily, Jaap gave us an extended tour on their approach, how to save water and much more.
Well, I'm an archaeologist by trade, really. I worked a lot in the Caribbean and in Holland. So I've always had an interest in some sort of a simplicity and natural materials, which is pretty much what you find in archaeological context. And Julia has worked as an architect always. But when we came here like 12 years ago, living in Barra we automatically wanted to implement the traditional and also pretty sustainable techniques, building techniques of this country, of this area, basically. And it was a very interesting discovery between the two of us that we were complementing quite nicely as an archaeologist and architect. And it was logical for us to do it as sustainable as possible. Yeah. We haven't really been so sustainable or regenerative or whatever in our lives before, really, living in the cities. But it sort of automatically developed. And the permaculture thing, like strictly things like planting and rainwater harvesting techniques and creating a food forest, that is something we started basically way later, since like 2 years ago with the pandemic. Things we've learned here, basically the first thing is like bioconstruction, since Julia is an architect. So we learned to build with the natural materials from this area, and also the traditional techniques, which is super interesting, and that we've combined a little bit with some more contemporary basic knowledge, architectural knowledge of Julia, so to sort of a blend of things. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the rainwater harvesting techniques and filtration of wastewaters, which is super important in this very dry climate here, to use as much as we can. And the third thing would be our permaculture techniques we've been implementing here. So that's what it's all about, basically.
And what was the reason you started to inform yourself about this topic? So why did you feel the need to do that?
Well, it was a gradual process of first starting to live from the city, Amsterdam, Bogota, Barra to the countryside. And living here, we felt, sort of automatically we needed to do something. First for the water, because it's so dry. And mostly because we fell in love with these beautiful, sustainable techniques based on earth. Yes, and this thing is what they call the tapial. So this is actually one of the most, I would say, emblematic things people use still here. And they say that this area here, Barra is also one of the places around the world where this technique of rammed earth is used in a traditional way quite intensively compared to other places around the world. So that's what Barra is pretty famous for. It is basically a mold you can take apart for planks and for elements, tensed on top just by turning the rope with a stick, and about 1.20 meters high, 50 wide, and 2 meters long. It's rammed earth, they call it in English, or Stammlehmbau in German. Here they call it tapia pisada, and it's done all over the world because independently many cultures have developed these techniques, and this is like the way they've done it in colonial times in Spain, and it was obviously introduced here after the conquest.
So what is this? It's made out of?
Yeah, it's called pañete and made out of three things. Mostly mule poop, red earth, the fine clayish red earth, and some lime. the white powder,
Yeah.
chalk basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you mix it up and start fermenting. It creates this fermentation process, so it becomes really plastic. It's really beautiful to work with. I think these blocks, these original ones, 20 by 20, 40 centimeters long, and because they were so nice, we tried to reuse as much as we could because they were falling apart. But still, I think we've been able to reuse about 30% of the original blocks.
Because you hear a lot of people, like, if they build a house, then always like need to extend and
Yeah. I think it's. I would say like the main building, like the rough building, 1.5 years, is for all the details.
Yeah, you should sit here
Yeah,
more often.
They've been designed like this. You know why? So you can sit also like in meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Notice. We like also the curtain of water going down. It's quite nice when it rains. And it turns out to be also nice because we don't have to clean the gutters with all the leaves. So we just sweep these ones on the floor.
Yeah,
That's
so you have
it's
them
way easier. Yeah,
all
we
around
have them
the house.
everywhere.
Ah, here, yeah.
We have them everywhere. So what happens is that we wanted to collect all the rainwaters, and the leaves are being kept out. Here you can see it's a bit of a sedimentation thing. So the solids which go through this mesh, it's not much, but the very fine particles of organic matter, they just settle on the bottom, and the outlet is a bit higher, so the water goes out a little bit cleaner towards the tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's like, first you have this, then you have the mesh, and then you have the sedimentation to get out most of the dirt
Okay.
on every single section. All these rainwaters, through those inspection pits, they come into this filter system. Here, there's some roots going in there again, looking for water. So, yeah, here you can see what happens. That the water comes in through these pipes from all the roofs, and here it's being filtered again, extra. Maybe it's not strictly necessary, but we want it to just be as clean as possible. So here it goes through a layer of gravel. It goes underneath the wall and it goes up again before entering the tank through another layer of sand, like very coarse sand. So actually the water is being forced underneath this wall like a siphon.
Yeah. Like a natural filter system.
Yeah.
And was it your invention, or where did you get like the inspiration to do it like that?
Friends, basically, people here around the Barachara, they showed us.
So they
their
are
system.
like using this technique here
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, not everybody, but some people who have this particular interest, they just showed this to us. And yeah, it's really nice, quite a nice interaction here with all kinds of people settling down here and trying to improve the water situation.
Yeah.
And you can also see that it hasn't rained for a while, right? Because you can see that the water is getting lower than the overflow pipes, and they're the yellow ones, so it's now about 15 centimeters lower. And that might have been maybe evaporation, but I think mainly those roots are sucking up the water.
Yep.
For me, it's actually way more interesting in many ways. Yeah, the beauty of recycling the wastewaters is that you avoid contamination first. Right? You're not polluting your own land or your neighbor's land or anything. And the other thing is that you can recycle all those waters, and it's a lot. So Julia actually pushed a little bit, and I'm really happy she did, because apart from the septic tanks which are down there, there's several of them. We have grey waters and black waters. The black waters are from the toilets, grey waters from everything else, like the showers and sinks and everything. These black and grey waters, they go in these septic tanks where the whole process takes place of decomposition with bacteria slowly. It works quite well. We don't really have to clean it often. And then the water from these tanks overflows the more liquid part, the cleaner parts, into a third tank. And from there it's being pumped. Every day we pump, like for a couple of minutes, water in this filter system.
The plants are the filter system.
Yeah, well, they actually help the bacteria, because the bacteria living in like 130-meter depth of sediments, they're the ones doing the job. They're cleaning the water. So the plants are actually supporting the whole process of breaking down all the dirt by the bacteria.
And the water then goes into the ground again, or do you collect the water from? So this is basically also like a basin or something.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you collect the water then out of there again, or it just goes into the earth and feeds all the other plants here?
We collect it seriously with tanks. So this is a closed system with a, you can see it here with plastic. Here you can see. So it's a plastic like a liner all the way around, 1.30 meters deep, filled up with sediments, mostly sand and gravel on top and gravel on the bottom, but mostly sand. And so the water is being pumped into the system through this white pipe, is being distributed through smaller tubes. Every meter there are tubes on the surface, and automatically sinks into the pond, into the sediments. And there is where the bacteria do their job. And because it's a vertical system, at the bottom the water is clean and is being collected, and with some drainage pipes it goes into the tanks over there. So that's the system. It's like a vertical biofiltration system.
Looks good.
Yeah, so this is how it comes out. So this correlates with the bottom of the depth of the pond, and you can see it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
Produced by our guests.
Yeah. So then.
And we can sell the fruits afterwards to them again.
That's really good. So you really have like a self-sustaining water system here, and it's still developing. Cool.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, we're really nice if we can have this circle, like with this humanure, as they call it, human waste, recycling it through these systems, and feeding the plants. You cannot use it, for example, too much for veggies, only for trees. I heard so.
Ah, okay. Yeah. But cool.
Yeah. Next
nice. Step by step.
Yeah. How can I explain? We always used to have some fruit trees here. Some lemons, some oranges, some papayas, but it wasn't very impressive, and we sort of neglected it also. And sometimes we were watering with buckets. It was not very efficient. There's always water running off a little bit because of the slope. So last year with the pandemic, when we didn't have any guests, we were like, okay, let's go into some really serious permaculture things. So we started to make these boomerang swales all around every tree. They call them boomerang swales because they have a shape of like a boomerang, or like a moon shape, right?
Yeah.
On the lower side of the slope, and that really helps to retain the water a lot. So maybe I'm not sure, but maybe 50% of the water with a big rain, it will just flush down and you will lose it. It will go to the river and eventually it will end up in the sea. Actually, need is mimicking a forest. You need more layers of like lower parts, medium ones, and higher ones.
Yeah, it really looks like a forest already, like with the levels, with the different levels.
A little bit, yeah. It's getting there. And now it doesn't look like the best, but it really made a big difference. And it's first year. Well, actually, since last year, there have quite a lot of fruits and little beans, pigeon peas, for example, as well. Some yucca, and hopefully in the future some bananas. But that's going to be the most difficult thing because of the water, obviously. Here's a coconut circle. So with this little slope here, the water goes into the center of the circle with quite a lot of organic matter in a big deep hole. And these 3 coconut trees, they nurture from one single hole, which is also like an interesting permaculture technique. Instead of having everything spread out, we let these trees actually take advantage of one single spot of nutrients and water. a thing derived from hangar doors for planes. So you can fold it back up like this. And it actually works with a pulley and counterweights. So you can close it on both sides and it opens up basically just like this. You can see that this cable goes all the way up and round and it's connected with that counterweight there on the right. You see it going down?
Yeah.
That's the one going down. I think the way we've done it has never been done, I guess. And it's all recycled wood, so I love it.
Part of your property.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was like we used to have 9 hectares. Judah told them about it. And they were straight away, they were like, oh, maybe we can join in. So they were the first to visit us.
Oh, okay.
And just for a week or something, they went over quickly to have a look, and
they fell in love.
They fell in love with this property.
True, as everyone here. Wow, this has been an incredible tour. I don't know about you guys, but I would definitely directly move into this house. It was amazing.
But honestly, we are flashed by all the smaller and bigger steps that have been implemented around this property to create a more conscious lifestyle. Starting during construction, every decision made was aiming towards a more sustainable living, choosing second-hand materials, using the resources provided by nature without harming the environment, and coping with the water situation. We are absolutely impressed.
We hope that this portrait of the Guaymaro campsite was as inspiring for you as it was for us. Looking into the future, to the climate change, we think such ideas will become more and more important for us.
Yeah. So this has been the first episode of us creating an English documentary. So yeah, usually our vlogs are in German, in our mother tongue.
Yeah. Let us know below if you enjoyed it and if you want to see more such videos.
Yeah. Share ideas, be happy and live different. See ya!